think that's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening and good night whenever you're watching the video. This is the Reds Report. I am Chris Ridyard. As you can see on your screen, Carlo underwatering. How are you?
Me, still here, mate.
Absolutely living the dream, Carlo. Busy man?
Yeah, it's weird how I know people, we said it earlier, didn't we? I know for a lot of people, they're on furlough, they're not working. And I have to work from home. So besides being at home 24/7 and unable to go out, I've got work as well. And then, like I told you, a good friend lost his wife a couple of weeks ago. We've got foster child at home, disabled, who doesn't understand it. So it's busier than normal, which, yeah. So this is a nice bit of relief. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's nice to see you, mate. You're looking well, given all that stress.
It's the shirt, isn't it?
Also, not in the studio, but on the couch or on his dining room table, we have Barnsley FC, ex-Barnsley FC player, Colin Walker. Are you all right, Colin?
Yes. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever it is.
Well, that's the beauty of YouTube. People can watch it whenever they like, Colin. So we could be in somebody's bedroom now and it could be 2 o'clock in the morning.
Don't say that. My wife's downstairs.
So how are you doing, Colin, given the
I'm very well, thank you.
I'm assuming you're housebound at the minute.
I am. And we have a fantastic routine. We take the dog out for a walk. We go and visit my mum, see if she's okay. Walk back. I've just acquired a rowing machine. That's how bored I am.
Right.
So I have a couple of sessions on the rowing machine, and then you start watching the news, hoping that something nice is going to be on. But it's still at the moment all sad news.
Well, yeah, you're right. Well, obviously we're here today. We're going to try and entertain everybody. Reminisce, as you were saying earlier, off call. Reminisce and just basically put some smiles on faces and try and think about stuff that's gone previously with yourself and Barnsley Football Club and just try and think of the good times, I guess.
Okay. I mean, like I said, I watched a little bit of John Parkin last week, and he's one of my reprobates, I think we'll call him. I had John from 16 to 19, 20, and he did keep you on your toes.
In his prime, and John Parkin and yourself in your prime, what best player, Colin?
Oh, he was.
Give over.
He had a right foot, a left foot. He could head it. He could run at that time when he was 16, 17. No, when he was 17, 18, John Parkin was a really, really good player, and he's done fantastic.
Yeah, I want to say
he's done really, really well.
We joke about it a lot because he is that sort of person. But to be able to make over 200 appearances in your working life at that sort of level, and wherever he's been, he's always been highly regarded, hasn't he? He's always that workhorse.
Yeah, he was only a workhorse on match day. From Monday to Friday, he wouldn't do anything. If you went running, you had to wait because he got lost. And I'm sure he'll admit that to himself. The worst thing he liked was running. Didn't like it at all.
No. I mean, I play up front with a friend of mine who he said if I wanted to be a runner, I would have joined the Harriers. So basically, I have to do all his running for him. So,
yeah. But John Parkin started, I think, in the first team at Barnsley as a centre half in the middle of a back three. He was so clever on the ball. He was talented. He was really, really good. There was a lot of players in and around that time that sort of, like Rory Fallon's, Dave Mulligan's, Chris Morgan's, Ricky Ravenhill. There's a lot of them that were in and around that time.
Are they all your reprobates? Are they all your reprobates then?
They are. Sadly, Chris Barker as well.
Yeah.
He was one of mine as well. Brian O'Callaghan. There's a lot more to it than the good thing for Barnsley. You see, Barnsley always had Barnsley in it. The Parkins, the people that Rimos, people in and around the building. They were Barnsley people. You couldn't. You had to have Barnsley in Barnsley.
Yeah,
it's still quite prominent in a lot of staff. A lot of staff are all currently, in and around Barnsley. I think we do a great job considering a modern day society and it becoming much more a business. I think the club does a great job in keeping that embedded.
Very much so, and I think that's the biggest thing that the football club had. Certainly when I was a player and in the 10, 11 years I was on staff, you used to go to train, and there would be, when we go in the Premier League, there'd be 100 people watching training.
Yeah.
They might all be unemployed, but that didn't matter. They were still there watching training. You got to know them by name. I got invited, when I got the sack in 2003, I got invited to a barbecue in Barnsley. I won't tell you which supporter it was. We've been seeing each other for every day for 10, 11 years.
Yeah.
So he wanted to give me a good send-off, so he organised a barbecue at his house.
Unbelievable. That's Barnsley people for you,
It is.
You talked about Parkin and how good he was, but let's not forget a couple of stats for you. 24 appearances for Barnsley, 12 goals. On loan to Donny Rovers, 12 appearances, 5 goals. So you're averaging 1 in 2. And then Gisborne City, New Zealand, 56 appearances, 38 goals. I mean, modern day strikers would struggle these days to hit anything near that.
Colin, you'd probably be worth about 35, 40 million in today's market with goals.
The other thing is what you've got to remember is that I was an international centre forward.
Yeah.
I played 15 A-class internationals with 10 goals in that as well.
You mentioned New Zealand earlier, you mentioned Rory Fallon earlier. Is there some kind of link there?
Yeah, well, his dad was from Rotherham.
Right.
So when I went over in 1980, he was knocked on my door and said, did I fancy 6 months in New Zealand? And I wasn't doing anything at the time apart from I was a bin man, which is a story in itself, because that's what the fans used to shout. Come on, the bin man.
Well, we've got 40 minutes, Colin.
I know. I know. And so I went to New Zealand for 9 months, and Rory's dad changed my attitude, the way I did things, started putting me in a gym. I used to do 3 gym sessions a week, and all of a sudden I became the leading goal scorer in the country for that year. Then when I came back to England, I had to come back before I went back to New Zealand again. But that's when Norman Hunter came into my life. I got asked to go and play for Barnsley Reserves because they didn't have enough players. That's back in the time. They didn't want to play any of the first team because they were on a good run. So I got invited to play, played 4 games, scored 4 goals, and the next day Norman Hunter asked me if I'd go and sign in a pro contract. Which was, given that
that's a few years ago, Colin, can you reenact that conversation? What that conversation with Norman Hunter might have been like?
I can. For me, Norman Hunter was a legend, a big footballer for Leeds United, for England. Me being a passionate football person, he was a legend. So I thought I was just going to have a chat with him.
Right.
So I went into the office. It was the same manager's office that we used all them many years ago. And we sat down, we were having a chat. And he said, how do you fancy playing properly? And I went, what do you mean? And he said, well, I've seen you play the last 3 games. I think we might be able to do something with you. Why don't you sign pro to the end of the season? I said, where's the form? Let me sign right now. I didn't want to leave the office. It wasn't even written up, but I didn't want to leave in case he changed his mind. It was amazing.
So that season ended up being a good season then? Is it season prior?
I managed. That was the season that we got promoted. We beat Rotherham 1-0 to get into the Championship. But I played.
Is that the header you scored against Rotherham, or is that a different game?
No. I didn't. In that season finished, I played half a game against Chesterfield at home, come on a sub, and half a game against Blackpool away. And then the final game of the season, we had to beat Rotherham at home to get promoted to the Championship. And we won 1-0, and we were promoted to the Championship.
Wow.
And then it was the following year that I eventually managed to get myself into the team.
Wow. Just to jump a little bit, but just something you just said about that conversation with Norman Hunter. Obviously, still involved with football today. How much difference is it? You're working with younger players now that got agents and financial demands and everything. How much has that side of the game changed?
Well, when I was head of youth at Barnsley, I used to deal with the agents daily.
Oh.
It was. I mean, I remember sitting in the boardroom with John Dennis, with an agent who had got 3 Swedish Turkish players who were 15 years of age.
Wow.
And we were talking packages of 25k. This is back in the 90s for each player. It didn't happen because the agent himself stuck his bit on, and then you end up looking at from 25, it ended up being 38. It's amazing.
You see, you've lived such a life through football. It must have changed so much in your time. Did you know, Colin, it's 39 years ago, Monday just passed, that you made your first debut, your professional debut. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. Was that Chesterfield at home?
39 years, yeah. Well, that's what we've been told by Barnsley stats.
No, that's Chesterfield at home. I came on second half.
Wow.
So you had obviously a long career. We mentioned you went to Gisborne, Doncaster Rovers, Cambridge, Matlock. I'm looking through. You had a couple of
Darlington, Torquay.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Carl, you don't mention Sheffield Wednesday, do you?
No, I never.
It must have dropped off a sheet, that.
But then it's 1988, and on a run out with Gisborne City, is it your cruciate that you did?
No, I did my cruciate back here.
Right. Okay.
I came back from Gisborne. I'd been player manager that time I played, and I came back home, obviously looking for a club, and I played for Doncaster Rovers in a trial match at Mansfield Town, and ruptured my cruciate ligament. That was it. That was the end of my playing career.
What happens then? Because you've been playing obviously abroad, here, all over. Did you always want to stay in football? Because now we've had guests on the show that said that was it for me. You know, you talked about Eddie Moses. It's like you've got people who are now financial planners, experts, whatever you call these days. But was it always going to be football for you, staying in the game or not?
When that doctor said to me, Colin, you'll never play football again, I went home and said to my missus, right, now what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I just went looking for any work out just to pay the bills. I was married. I had a son then. So it was, it was just paying bills. And what happened was Barnsley Football Club used to have a football in the community program.
Yeah.
And David Wilkes, another ex-player, moved, and they were looking for a community officer. So Colin Walker applied for it, went to have an interview in Marks and Spencer's in Rotherham with 2 people that interviewed me for the job, and I got that job as football in the community officer on 85 quid a week.
Wow.
Didn't even cover any of the bills that we were on. But it was a job. I was back in the game. And what happened as a community officer, they paid for all the coaching badges. So the PFA paid for them all. So I then got into coaching. And that's when, all of a sudden, I got into it. And then Viv Anderson got appointed manager.
Yeah.
Eric Winstanley got promoted to first team coach.
Yeah.
And again, a story that I'll tell you. I get an interview with Viv Anderson and Danny Wilson in their office on a Saturday morning at 9:30. So I bang on the door and I walk in. Viv, Viv has got his feet on the table. Coronation Street is on the telly, and he's watching Coronation Street.
Right.
Viv Anderson said to me, Eric Winstanley says, you're a good coach. When can you start? I said Monday. He said, right, okay, off you go. That was the interview.
Brilliant.
He was still watching. By the way, he was still watching Coronation Street. He never looked at me once.
It must have been an interesting episode.
That was a repeat. He'd missed it in the week, and he was trying to catch up.
You mentioned not knowing what to do, Colin, after football, after your playing career finished.
Yeah.
You might thinking that prior to playing career, or at some point in there, you were a bin man. You mentioned that earlier.
Oh, it was 1977.
Right.
For 2.5 years, I was a bin man. The best pre-seasons, the best training I ever did, because you had to put them on your shoulder, carry it, put it to the wagon, empty it, and then put it back where it was.
Yeah.
No,
not an easy job,
great
then.
Training.
Not an easy job.
No, but I loved it. Certainly in the summer, when you only had a pair of shorts on, we used to run round. We used to finish on a Thursday afternoon, and then we had Friday in the snooker hall, and then we had Saturday and Sunday playing football non-league. It was a great life. Garbologist now got the different names now, innit? Wasn't a bin man, it's a garbologist.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So you get into, well, it's not even an interview.
It
The commercial break. Viv Anderson asked you if you could start on Monday, which that time when obviously Viv Anderson came in, Denny Wilson came in, was on the verge of a very exciting chapter for the club.
It was.
What about then the players that they brought in? Obviously, Chris doesn't know. I'm from Holland. Chris doesn't know this, do you, Chris?
Are you from Holland, Carlo?
Well, I've got an interesting story about the Dutch lad that played for Barnsley.
Come on, man.
Mention you're from Holland, Carlo.
I know I'm very shy that way.
Well, the story is Barnsley Football Club are playing Sunderland away. So on the Friday morning, Danny Wilson said, I need somebody to go to Holland to watch a player.
Yeah.
At that time, I don't know whether you remember, Mal Shotton was on the staff.
Yeah.
But he was playing. He'd actually got him back in the team for a bit.
Right.
So we had no member of staff. So I flew to Holland. Friday morning, I flew to Holland. I got met by an agent who was going to take me to the game. But he booked me a room in Amsterdam because I was staying overnight. So we went to book a room. Michael Spinks, the secretary, I'm sure you both know him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gave me 50 quid expenses to go to
Right.
Holland. I didn't know. So the guy says, how are you paying for your hotel room? I said, how much is it? He said, it's 134 quid. And I got 50 quid in my pocket.
Right.
I said, I can't pay for the room. So the agent said, you know what these agents are like? If you sign the player, I'll pay for the room.
Right.
I said, well, I can't tell you that. I've got to watch him play first. He said, well, leave it and we'll come back. So we went to watch Ariane play. After the game, Ariane and his wife and the agent came back to the hotel. I rung the manager up and said, I think you should sign him. He heads it and he kicks it. The big thing he's got to learn is how to pass it. He's quick, he heads it and he kicks it. So he said, would you sign him? I said, well, yeah. He said, would you pay 180 grand for him? No, I don't know. Would I pay 180 grand?
What did you say, Colin? I can't even afford my hotel.
Well, by this time, because I'd obviously complained that I had no money. So I said, well, if we can afford it, I think we need somebody like him in the team. Yeah. So he said, well, stay another night and try and convince him and his wife to come to Barnsley. So I had 2 nights in the hotel room. By this time, the club had paid the bill. And as it happens, a week later, Ariane came over, and the rest, as they say, is
lost connection, I think.
Colin, are you all right just to shovel back on camera just a little bit?
There
we go. I want to see your beautiful face. it's nice to have a handsome chap on here. I used to have a look at
Oh,
Carlo.
yeah, all right. Stop it now. Stop it.
Carlo,
You both-
Carlo, everything's all right at this end.
I know. I was talking to myself, and you two were like this.
All right, okay.
You are then officially now my sort of second hero, because Ridyard Zeeuw, for me, as obviously a Dutch person living in Barnsley, the impact he had, the player he was, the gentleman he was, and he went on to have a good career, didn't he? You know, from Telstar to Barnsley to Wigan to Pompey to Wigan as captain. So his 50th birthday yesterday, I believe.
I spoke to him yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah.
On Facebook, we exchanged it. Yeah.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Wow.
How is he doing? Is he all right?
He is, I think, a policeman or a doctor.
Yeah. I think he was a forensic detective, like CSI kind.
Too clever to be a footballer. Too clever.
He was studying to become a doctor, wasn't he?
He was. He was a really nice guy as well.
Do you reckon he's probably the best signing that? Do you reckon he's probably the best signing you've been involved with, Colin, or is there others that you think are up there?
Wow. There's one or two failed, but I might keep them to myself. I didn't get much involvement. I mean, my involvement was bringing players through.
Okay.
That's the satisfaction I get.
So we talk about players that you may have developed then. Anybody that really belongs in that same bracket as Zeeuw?
Well, Chris Morgan.
Of course.
Chris Parker.
Yeah.
Johnny Parkin. Rory Fallon. Dave Mulligan. The list is. I should have wrote the list in front of me.
When you mentioned Rory Fallon, my stomach drops because I always think of that overhead kick he scored against us at Cardiff.
Yeah, no.
In that playoff final.
Yeah.
And I hated him so much that day.
But everybody thought, because he was big, and they thought he was big and slow, I believe if we'd have been able to carry it on, Fallon and Parkin would have been a magnificent pairing up front for the first team at Barnsley.
Yes, I agree, and I think you probably proved right. If you look at statistics and stuff, Fallon carried on for a few years and had a great career in the UK.
He's just finished.
And obviously Parkin's gone on to play at highest level effectively.
Yeah. But that was the time when Dave Bassett came in, and I think they were wanted to get promoted there and then, and nearly did it, didn't they? And nearly did it. Got to the old Wembley, but that was a gamble that they decided to get their own players in and not put the young kids in.
There's two things that you've just mentioned which sparks a question I'd like to ask. You mentioned strikers. Yourself, can you remember your first professional goal?
Liverpool.
And that year, I'm right in thinking Liverpool went on to win the League Cup and the league title.
They did. Yeah, we went. There was a famous game away from home when it was 0-0, and Barnsley took 18,000 fans there, of which half of them didn't get into the ground until half time.
It's not like Barnsley to take a good following, is it?
No. And we drew 0-0 at Anfield, and then we got back to Oakwell, and I made it. Unfortunately, I think it was the wrong thing to do. We went 1-up. We went in front, and I scored from an inch. I remember Ian Evans hit the post, and it came out. It was about an inch out, and I just managed to get there.
When I score goals like that, Colin, by week 3 it was 15 yard out, and it was an overhead kick.
I could never say that. Ian Evans for days on end was still trying to claim it, but then we got video evidence and picture evidence that it just hadn't crossed the line, but it was close.
You also mentioned Wembley previously. Obviously, Bassett been unsuccessful in getting Barnsley promoted and losing there ultimately. Yourself, you've been to Wembley as part of the coaching staff. I'm right in thinking that too?
Yeah, 2016. I was in the WSL in the women's game. We were full-time at Notts County. And we managed to get to an FA Cup final at Wembley. And it was an unbelievable experience. Being able to walk out. The Charity Shield, I think, was the day after. So we was. I think it might have been, I'm guessing here, but it was Arsenal, Man City are the two teams that were playing after us the next day. That could be wrong there. But the experience of being there, organising a warm-up on the pitch, the surroundings, my family in the stand, it was It was fantastic.
Wow. Still involved in football at the moment. Tell us a little bit what you're doing now.
Well, every football club has got a head of coaching. And I'm head of coaching at Grimsby Town. 2.5 years ago, I went for my first ever proper interview. Collar and tie, sat in front of a panel.
Wow.
At 58 years of age, and did a presentation, the one and only presentation I'll ever do. I managed to get the job, but they'd never had a head of coaching before, so I brought it up, started it from scratch, and at the moment now we've just got players in the first team. We're doing really well at the moment. We've got now a fantastic manager in here, Holloway.
Yeah.
Who's a character in himself. You can't be sleepy when he's around. He's an unbelievable guy, and I'm sure he's going to take the football club wherever they want to go.
It's really go on, Carl.
Sorry. Football is short of. We talked earlier about Parky. You now talk about Ian Holloway. Football seems to be concentrating a lot on money and stats, but it's those people in football that keep it going. I mean, Ian Holloway, wherever he's been, whenever we've played against him, he is such a likable character. If you look at what he did with Blackpool in very difficult circumstances, he is a footballing man through and through, and there's not many of those, is there?
No, there is. But now managers don't get the time to manage.
No,
they just coach. Ian Holloway is a manager. Ian Holloway runs the whole club. He's in all the bars at 2:05 announcing on the microphone what the team is and why he's picked the team. He's telling all the punters that have paid that extra money. He's getting them all involved. He's getting all the town involved. He's going into schools every week, giving out free tickets. He is the manager of the club. I don't think there are many managers now. I think they're all coaches.
Well, it was a big question, wasn't it, Chris, around Barnsley when Daniel Stendhal left? Lots and lots of people saying, it's only the board that picks him and blah, 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 and everything else. I mean, we'll never know what happened.
Yeah.
There's a lot of head coaches and not many managers no more.
No, I don't think there's any managers.
I guess that's just a sign of the time, isn't it? And how things have split from a football sense and a business sense. And we have chief executives and stuff like that now, and we have people in charge of recruitment and people just in charge of coaching alone. For the better or for the worse. I think you mentioned characters and stuff, and I also think in a time when Colin was predominantly in football, social media didn't exist, and I don't think it was easy to berate people. So you mentioned characters. Well, our social media and our media alone are very good at breaking these characters down, and we're very good to pick at them when they make a mistake. I don't think we're very good at picking people up, are we? I feel like we're very good at praising somebody because they're funny and that, but then as soon as they make a mistake, we're very good at breaking them down. I think that loses a lot of characters in football, I think.
Well, all the characters then stop being a character. They go very quiet.
Correct.
I mean, like I said, back in the time when I'm sure some people still watch training at Oakwell on the training ground, but you used to walk past them and you used to, how are you going, Fred? How's your life gone now? Now people will be taking a camera, hoping that somebody will say something that will get them into bother. So nobody says anything to anybody.
Yeah. I have to say, Alan Smith, who listens to our podcast.
I know Alan. I know.
You know, Alan used to go to training religiously. He used to go and watch the under-21s. I think under Daniel Stendhal, the club said training is now closed because we had opposition clubs coming to see how we were training, how they were setting up. But it was one of those things for a lot of people that it's not just about the match day. It's watching a train on a Monday, on a Wednesday. And it's a shame that that's all gone, because I completely agree. When I first started watching Barnsley, so you're talking, 1992, 93, you went on a match day, and that's when you saw the players. And you're out working, so that's when you saw the players. Now, you can go on one of these, and you can tell a player that he's, because of this, and he should have passed that, and actually, it's wrong, isn't it? Because nobody did my job. Nobody says, hold on, well, you did the home, you know what I mean? And it's, I know they earn a lot, but they're also, they live in a glass box, don't they?
How is the social media and that box handled at Grimsby then, Colin? Is that that something that Ian works on? Is that something that yourself works on, or?
But what he's done, he's set himself up and talked to all the right people and does all the right things, so everybody gets the right story and prints out what is happening. Yeah. Anything that doesn't need saying only gets said inside, where nobody gets, and that's how it should be all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not big in football up here. Football people have always been proper people. They're not scientists. They're not nutcases. They're just ordinary proper people.
Yeah.
But going back to my time, on a midweek game, I used to get a bus from where I lived into Rotherham, and then from Rotherham to Barnsley, and walk down that hill to the main ground. Yeah. And I would be walking with members of the audience who were coming down to see if they could see a player, and we were having a chat. But now you wouldn't be able to do that.
No.
It's really sad.
Yeah. You mentioned in Holloway, obviously at Grimsby. Yourself, Colin, you are 60 plus now. Sorry if I mention it. Just wanted to know.
Well, you're laughing when you say
it. No, it is a sincere, I promise. I just want to know what keeps you so hungry, what keeps you so vibrant. Is it a character like Ian Holloway? Is it just over football? Is it because you know that sitting on your bum is just not for you? What keeps you so motivated and so driven?
Well, at Barnsley, let's go back to that bit. At Barnsley, we could see a line of players from each age group that, if at the right time, we're going to get into the first team.
Do you want to shuffle back on camera, Colin? We can't quite see you. Sorry. You're all right, mate. Thank you. That better? Carry on. Yeah.
So we could see a line of players from each age group that have got a chance of getting in the first team.
Yeah.
That is what drives people like me on. Now, in the job that I do now, not only do I see players from each age group looking to get into Grimsby's first team, my main role is to create coaches that are going to help them players to get better. So I'm seeing better coaches week in and week out who are getting better through their work that they do, that the work that we all do together, and so I'm now seeing an improvement in them as well as the players.
Yeah,
and that's what keeps me going.
So it's the future, and it's the future and the youth of the club, really.
Yes, all the time.
So, who's been the best coach in your career then, Colin?
Eric Winstanley.
Yeah, we've heard. Yeah.
Eric Winstanley is the one that gave me my chance. That's one. But two, the way that he works. So they talk about three centre halves back nowadays in this beautiful game that we have. That people are playing three centre halves. Barnsley were playing three centre halves in 1995.
Yeah.
But what also had happened then is that the Watsons, the Moses, the Jones, the Liddles, the people that had come through the system at Barnsley with Eric as their coach, he could then coach him in the first team, and we got players in like John Henry, like Paul Wilkinson. We talked about Ariane. They got the players. Everybody then bought into the way that what Eric wanted to do. And Danny just let him get on with it. It wasn't in a book. You couldn't find it in a book.
No. And that's really interesting, isn't it? Because the model that Barnsley have got at the moment.
Carlo, you nicked the question off my tongue. I know exactly what you're going to say. It's good.
So, Barnsley's model at the moment is very much bringing young players to the club, lower leagues, develop them, get them ready for our first team if they're not, and then get them in the first team, get the best football out of them, and sell them on for a profit.
Yeah.
And when you look over the last few years, there's been players. If you look at a Conor Horahan, captain of Plymouth, nobody really heard of him. He came, he did all right.
Left winger, poor left winger.
Yeah, I know.
Poor left winger in League 2, League 1.
You know, stumbled a bit. You look at people like Colin Woodrow, who was an almost unheard of Fulham under 21, never even a chance. Is that for you then, as like a director? Is that exciting? That Barnsley only look, or is that a dangerous game to play given the finances and some of the teams that there are in the Championship?
But I would be looking to invest a little bit more and developing the players that Barnsley have got in the system already.
Yeah.
Not bringing somebody from somewhere else to invest it in them.
I think from what I can gather, the club are attacking on two fronts, and it is a twofold. I know they've invested a lot of money in academy. I think a lot of what Barnsley is, I think, is obviously imprinted on yourself, Colin. I think you've got a lot of similar values to them in terms of you see the value in the youth, and you can see that it can develop into something bigger. And it's kind of like rather it being short term, it's much more a long term project that can build into something bigger.
But if you're 18 and somebody says to you, is he a player? You have to have the confidence to say he might make one or two mistakes right now. I'll give you my era. Mick McCarthy didn't learn by going to somewhere else to play football and then come back and bring all his talents that he'd learned anywhere else. He learned in Barnsley first team. He made many a mistake in Barnsley first team, got a rocket for it, and learned from it to become then the player he was.
Yeah. So what you're saying to me, Colin, is young Barnsley centre halves make mistakes and sometimes come back better. Is that what you're telling me?
You've got to allow young players to make mistakes. Yeah. If they play in the first team, they're going to drop rickets.
Yes. Yeah.
And I suppose what Barnsley have done in that vision is the head coaches that they've appointed, and I'm thinking of a Paul Heckingbottom, I'm thinking of a Daniel Stendal, I'm thinking of a Struber, is that they work very much, all their talent lays with working with younger players. You look at pre-season, Aidan Marsh, 16, 17 years old. When I say one for the future, he's on the fringes, as in he now makes the bench. Roman Palmer, Jasper Moon. There's a cohort of younger players coming through that Barnsley's had for the last 3-4 years in the academy that have made their way up. Then at one point, because it's a cruel game, isn't it? At one point, it's make or break then for these young players, isn't it? You get your chance, you take it, you do well, and you get the name on the back of that, or it doesn't work, and off you go. Yeah.
But you're not going to be successful in every one. But it's having the confidence and the strength to say, eventually, he will be a player. If you keep playing him, he will be a player. And then if you're going to go and sell him, I like John Stones. Right? Yeah. I remember watching him. He made lots of rickets when he was in the first team at Barnsley.
Yeah.
Everybody could see he was a player.
Yeah.
So he's allowed to make them mistakes. Because in the end, he made the football club a hell of a lot of money.
He did, yeah. Colin, it's been brilliant to have you on the show today. We'd like to come to Fan Zone proper once we're all back up and running, if that's all right. I guess the other thing is, me and Carlo probably would like to visit Grimsby at some point. If you'd be willing to have us there, and we'll have some fish and chips, that'd be nice.
Well, again, because I live 60 miles away, unfortunately, I very rarely watch the first team.
Right, okay.
But if you're going to say I want to come to that game, I'll make an exception for you two, and we'll make a day of it.
That'd be brilliant, Colin. We'd like that. Carlo?
It's not unlike Barnsley to play Grimsby, are they? Pre-season friendlies and things like that. But with the state of everything going, we don't know when a pre-season is going to be because we've not finished this one yet.
Boxing Day, you'll be playing pre-season friendlies.
Not a Grimsby, mate.
How is the club coping, Colin, with the recent crisis?
Well, we've been furloughed. I think the clubs of our size, that has to happen.
Yes, of course.
I think that it's unprecedented times. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I think I'm very fortunate that, I'm sat in my house. I haven't got a mortgage on it now. I've been working in the game a long time now. I sometimes feel sorry for the new coaches and the new members of staff that have just got into the game, that have got mortgages, don't know whether they're going to be in a job next year, so on and so on. It's a really cutthroat business, but I remember feeling that way many moons ago. Yeah. But you have to have confidence in your own ability. And I think that's how I've got on.
And I think a lot of people learn when we get through this actually about how resilient they are, because a lot of people think I can't do this, I can't do that. But actually, I think we're showing that resilience just by getting from one day to the next, because like you say, these are unprecedented times. There's no guidebook, there's no handbook. I've said it many times to Chris, I've got 3 children at home, although the oldest one is 25, that look at me to say, I wonder how my mum and dad feel about all this, because he's been furloughed, you don't know what's going off. And I just think you take it one day at a time. And like you say, for us, that's probably a little bit easier. But for some of these younger players that have maybe moved to Grimsby or new coaches that have come there, they're very uncertain times, aren't there? Is there still contact between staff and everything?
Yeah, we have. I've done more Zoom meetings than I've ever done in my life.
I'll tell you what, Colin, you're better on Zoom than you are on Skype, that's for sure.
Zoom was easier than Skype.
All right, mate, all right. Colin, usually what happens when a guest comes on the show like yourself is we have something called Room 102, and that is basically something that exists in football. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. It can be an idea or something else that basically you want to get rid of, and basically you have to run it past me and Carlo, and me and Carlo will decide if it goes into Room 102, and if it does, me and Carlo will get rid of it forever for you.
Okay.
So something.
Some examples are VAR, referees, and somebody, the head of marketing at Barnsley Football Club and fan engagement, Andy Clark, wanted to get rid of the wind. Purely because when the wind is blowing behind the east stand, we can't have a fan zone. So that's what he wants. And we made it happen. We go all Harry Potter and we make it happen.
Yeah, it's gone. It's not been windy since, has it? It's not been windy since.
No, okay. We can't go outside, but there's no wind.
Mine is offside.
Offside.
Okay. What would that look like then? Would people just be going?
You cannot not be involved. You can't not be involved in the game. You can't say he wasn't involved in that bit. You can't be stood. You can't be stood in the 6-yard box. Ball goes out wide, and then you take 2 steps to the right. You're now onside, and cross comes in and he goes in.
Right. So if you're offside, you're offside, and that's end off.
You can't not be interfering with play.
I had no idea why they ever changed that, because I remember that rule and I thought it worked perfectly. So I don't know why it was changed, and I think it's probably more prominent in this day and age now.
I mean, now they stand in front of the goalkeeper. So the goalkeeper can't see a shot coming in.
Yeah.
And then he moves away. He can't be offside. He can't not be offside. He can't not be interfering with play.
I'm not going to argue with this lad. I'm getting rid of it, Chris. I don't know what you want to do. But for me,
I'll tell you what. I'll just get on Google now and find the head of the FA, and we'll try and have a look at the rule book and see if we can rip it up just for you, Colin.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much for coming on, mate. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
Please come back on soon. I'm sure you've got plenty more stories we can cover.
I tell you what, Chris. In the summer holidays, if we ever get them, if they're ever going to be an off-season or whatever, I wouldn't mind making a short trip over to Rotherham. It's not far from you. It's definitely not far from me. And I'd love to sit in a corner of a working man's club or a pub and hear some stories from this one.
Yeah.
What about the... Yeah, okay. No, I will do that. What about the other 2 Dutch lads that came to Barnsley Football Club?
Oh, well, I've heard some stories about Van der Poel.
I'm not going to... I'll diverge to you face to face, not on here.
Yeah.
You mean Carol van der Velden?
Oh, yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
No, it would be good, Colin, if we could jump in car and get over to Grimsby. Maybe you could give us a tour around and we can have a look at what you do, maybe.
Not a problem.
That'd be brilliant. Carlo bite fish and chips, he said.
Yes. Gravy or curry, Chris? This is an important question.
Nothing. Salt and vinegar.
Gravy.
Gravy.
Salt, vinegar, fish with scraps.
All right.
He's
always up for a scrap. Thank you very much, Colin.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening or watching the Reds Report. I've been Chris Ridyard. He's been Carlo van der Watering. He's been the legend that is Colin Walker. Thank you very much, Colin. We'll see you next time.
All the best.
Thank you for watching, everybody. Ta-ra.
All the best. Bye now.